In 2017, I interviewed this man, David Ash, about his film.
The time will come when, with elation, you will greet yourself at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, "Sit here." You will love again the stranger that was yourself. Give wine. Give bread. Give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the letters, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit. Feast on your life.
What has David Ash been up to since?
Making this film that we've already made. And you get these sort of snippets of it here and there. We're just kind of nodding to it more than like, getting too much deeper than that. So
feelings of love, hate, spirituality, morality, pride, guilt, regret. How can any of it mean anything when no one is actually in control? And facing this means looking at life in very new, very uncomfortable ways.
Well, you're about to find out as we begin season 2 and turn the spotlight on Mr. David Ash. Why don't we start by telling everybody about yourself and what you've created here?
I think, as you know, I've made 3 feature films before this, 7 shorts, and then I kind of got just kind of burned out making features. I feel like the market for indie features is really just not there anymore, if there ever was. So, and that whole space is kind of moving to more TV series related stuff. So I really felt that was the way to go. So after my last feature, Twin Cities, which I know you and I talked about a couple of years ago, I want to try something more longer, more serial, that provided an opportunity to not only kind of go where the market is for this kind of material, but also, to have a longer arc to develop characters and stories and all that. So that's really where I went. I'm glad I did. It's been a really challenging change of forum for me as a writer, director, editor, producer. As far as the story, there's a pretty tenuous tie between Twin Cities and the series. As you've seen it, the lead character is making a film called Twin Cities. Mm-hmm. So the conceit there is that he's making this film that we've already made, and you get these sort of snippets of it here and there. We're just kind of nodding to it more than like getting too much deeper than that. So it's a nice way to kind of go from the film into this serial space without losing kind of the themes that I still want to talk about, which are a lot of themes that we saw in Twin Cities, but now they're much more fully, I think, fleshed out. And you still have some of the similar kind of narrative devices we use in Twin Cities, but that's also much more pronounced and stuff too. So it started out as just kind of a serial version of Twin Cities, but going further than that. But I wanted to make it even more than just the that is in Twin Cities. So that's where this got into this whole other realm of how this thing works, which is, I think, a very, gets very metaphysically deep.
Was your approach different? Did you find that you had to change some things from making a feature into this realm? Or was your production process pretty much similar?
The production was, I used a lot of the same folks as Twin Cities and some other films. Bethany and Clarence are still lead actors, a couple of lead actors in this.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've kind of gotten better at the whole process as I've gone along. You just kind of, filmmaking, you just kind of learn it by doing it. I think film school and everything else is just kind of a joke. I think you just have to do it. And, having done 7 shorts and 3 features, I just kind of had a general idea. I was amazed how, we shot, had more finished runtime in this series than Twin Cities, and we had less than half as many shooting days and less than half the budget.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very happy with that. I think it's a higher production value product than Twin Cities. So I was quite happy with, what we're able to produce given our budgetary constraints and everything else. So, but as far as the process, it hasn't really changed much. I think we've just gotten better at it.
I like how you describe your storytelling style. You kind of you describe it as a Mobius strip, not a narrative arc. And you play a lot with ambiguity in pretty much everything you've ever done. So I'm curious, how linear is your thought process in storytelling? Does it all blur as you write it, or do you write the real aspects and then the dream aspects and kind of blur them together?
Yeah, I don't get constrained or struck by any kind of like narrative arc I want to achieve going into it. I always just have, like, this is a project especially, really stuff I just want to dive into, and from there it kind of reverse engineers into the way that the structure is going to work to get there. And here, having seen it, you can tell it's what I'm going after is a really trying to get at, even obliquely, a theme that's, I think, a little different than a lot of stories, or most stories, where I'm not so much trying to attack it as, this happened and that happened and that happened, these characters make these choices and then this happened because of those choices.
Right.
It's trying to really, honestly, achieve a level below that where, as you can see in the trailer to this, as well as the first episode, what we're ultimately getting at, and this gets much more, fleshed out in season 2, which I've already written, so I can tell you, which is trying to get a story about, what really underlies our choices. Do we have free will? I think we don't. And most physicists, all physicists, really think we don't. So it's really trying to get at, what do stories mean if we're actually not consciously in control of our choices? I mean, what is the meaning of these things that are normally in a story about, love and redemption and regret, all these other parts of most stories. The Mobius strip part is where it's not really understood until you kind of step back. It's more of a Pontillist kind of thing where you get a feeling for it once you've removed yourself from it, or we've looked at sort of a higher level up. And that's the only way I felt I could get across these ideas of, like I mentioned about, the illusions of free will in itself, because if you do it without that stuff, it just comes off kind of pretentious, kind of heavy-handed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I felt like you had to kind of get into a different level and not do a normal narrative arc. And the Mobius strip part that you're referring to is just kind of, you're getting it sort of obliquely through these different devices I'm using in the whole series, which ultimately allude to this idea of who's in control. And that's where the whole thing revolves around, this idea, which speaks directly to the idea of the illusion of free will, which specifically we attack through Gödel's incompleteness theorem, which for the non-geeks out there is a theorem that was published in 1931. It kind of revolutionized the way we look at not just mathematics, but systems itself. And it effectively proved that you can't really prove anything within a system. There has to be an assumption of an outside variable to break a lot of stuff down in a very simple sentence. So that was alluded to early in the first season, that it kind of is an overall viewpoint that we're using to get to this idea of who's actually in control, not only of, basically who's in control of our lives or ourselves. Right. Is there a God figure? Is there a higher power? And that's where the title comes from. That's the whole idea, is that if you follow that idea through, there has to be something outside of the universe, outside of our system, to explain it. And that's the whole nut of the whole thing. So I kind of feel like the narrative device, the normal arc within there, you see the characters, what they're trying to do, that's all just kind of a Trojan horse for me that's trying to sneak in these ideas that are at a different level than the normal stuff you see in a normal narrative of people just trying to get to some goal that they can't get to.
Hi.
Hello. $1931.
Oh, yeah, very good.
Also, the year, interestingly, that that mathematician Kurt Gödel completed his incompleteness theorem, essentially proving that nothing can be proven, the infamous hole in mathematics. Oh, any closed system, such as math or the universe, or relies on something outside of itself to explain itself. Gödel went mad. He thought somebody was trying to poison him, so he committed suicide. Starvation.
What can I get you today?
Coffee. Dark roast. Large.
So episodics are huge, like you were just saying. There's the feature film marketplace has been kind of diluted and misrepresented and torn apart to a certain extent. And episodics were making a big push in the last couple of years. And what I've seen and the way that I've seen it approached is typically, you develop a pilot and then from that you try to sell off of that. But I have a feeling because of the nature of what you were trying to get across, that would have been a tougher sell for you. It would have been tougher to put what you were trying to do in a pilot. Is that kind of why you went with the 6-arc narrative kind of idea, to kind of so that you could spread apart and show people what exactly you're aiming at a little bit more?
Yeah, you're onto something. That honestly, initially it was just going to be a really long pilot. To be totally honest with you. So, but yeah, it's exactly for what you're describing, because we ended with about 2 hours of finished stuff, and I just felt that was, first of all, that was too long for any kind of pilot. No one's going to sit through 2-hour pilot, especially for a filmmaker like me.
Yeah.
So, but also to the point you're making, I don't think. I mean, I realized when we were done that this wasn't a pilot. Didn't feel like a pilot to me. It felt like a full, kind of an opening gamut to something that's going to follow from there, more in a season kind of a feel than just a very long pilot. So yeah, it occurred to me, I was going through editing and I watched a series called Undone on Amazon, which I've seen it on. It's amazing. But it's these 20-minute episodes. And I've always thought of like 20-minute episodes of stuff being comedies, right? So it never occurred to me that this should be, 20-minute episodes of something that's much more, psychological drama kind of stuff. So I watched them, like, and I don't see why this couldn't be 20-minute episodes of the stuff I just made.
Yeah.
Right. And then I thought, oh, well, it would have to make a work from, the episode. It had to feel like episodes. And when I sat down with it, I did all the editing, so I was able to really get a feel for how I'd want to change it. And it really did kind of chunk out and pretty close to 20-minute, actually 7 episodes for this first season. And it felt like when I was done, and the people that were involved said, yeah, this feels like a season much more than a pilot.
Yeah.
So there's so much that goes on in this 2 hours that it would have been, first of all, nobody would have looked at it for more than 15 minutes anyway. So I know filmmaker wants to spend part of my life watching a effing pilot. So all that started to push me toward doing these episodes. I'm really glad I did. It does feel like, to me, like a full season.
You are currently shopping to get the second season done, and you're open to having somebody else come on board to help you get this going. Are you looking at this as the calling card, and that you're willing to kind of readjust or redo? Because like you said, most conventionally dramas are usually between 40 and 60 minutes.
Right.
And have you thought about that at all? Are you prepared if somebody came to you with that? Are you going to say, you know what, I think it works better as we presented it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked that already by folks I've talked to. We're just getting started trying to, the ultimate goal is to sell the first season.
Yeah.
Pretty close as is, hopefully. But I'm definitely willing to, if there's, I think most folks on that side of things are used to developing things rather than buying things, especially somebody who's not well known, such as me. So
that's why people do pilots, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was originally the idea. But again, I think it works much better as a full season. And if someone came through and said, I want to see this scene added to the first season, I would do it. I'm really open to anything at this point, as long as it doesn't compromise too much. And the second season is actually much longer. I actually have 9 about 45-minute episodes I've written already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and actually, I wrote most of this before we started production on this pilot. So, I'm open to how that gets developed as well. I mean, it's a bit of a challenge. I mean, I'm trying to get everything you can get without having name actors. We've done very well in these competitions so far. I think we've won 6 already.
Yeah.
Gotten some great reviews. But no one is really well known in the production outside of Minnesota. So I'm hopeful that folks will see, the production value I think is quite high. We've got some great folks that worked on that. As far as the scoring and the sound design, everything else I think is pretty top notch. So I'm hoping that folks will look at that on the other side of the table and say, look, this is a high quality thing. We're willing to invest in buying season 2, maybe tweaking a little bit, season 1, maybe tweaking, and then also investing in production. As you know from covering indie folks stuff for a long time, it's the challenge is getting out there.
Yeah.
Make something on a platform that gets seen by people. And I'm willing to do a lot to get that done. So I'm willing to, bend a lot of ways to get there.
And if at a point when you look at it and see that maybe the interest may be a little bit there just to provide you with a financial idea, you're willing to do it yourself as well, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of different roles in filmmaking. This one, I wrote it, directed it, edited it, and produced it. So I'm willing to do all that stuff again. I mean, I'd prefer not to do all the editing and producing again.
Right.
That's the funnest thing in the world. Always. That takes a while. So I'd love to hand off some of those other things, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes if that's what they want me to do. I would doubt they'd want me to do the editing and producing again, but I'm kind of whatever it takes guy. I mean, if it takes to do it, we just got to do it.
That's you have to be that way in the indie.
You have to, yeah, the stuff.
Getting into the story a little bit more, and Twin Cities is a phenomenal look at 2 people in their parallel lives and kind of intersecting. Did you look at when you took on this series? You basically have 6. You're telling 6 people's stories.
Right.
Did you look at that and go, okay, I know that I want to do something like Twin Cities, but I have to up the ante. So was doing 6 people the evolution of your personal storytelling process, or was that just a happenstance of what the story you were telling?
Yeah, probably more the latter, Joe. I mean, I had this idea, again, trying to not give away too much, of the characters where you halfway through the first season, you're not sure if you're watching the actors or the characters. And I was very careful at a certain point where you don't know. Yeah. And I've talked to a lot of folks who've seen it, and half will say they think it's one, half the other. That's what's perfect. That's what I wanted. So I wanted that. Yeah, that gets back to my earlier stuff about alluding to certain ideas through a narrative structure and the way you're doing things. And that was way of getting to some of those other ideas I was talking about earlier. So I knew I wanted that in there. That idea came to me.
I'm gonna kiss you now. I'm gonna kiss you hard.
What?
Do you ever feel like you're not in... Do you know what determinism is?
No.
outside now. I'm gonna do some things you don't want to tell your mother about.
Sounds like a plan.
Actually, I think Carolina's not on the first date, cowboy.
Yeah, I can never remember the lines.
Beyond that, I think Twin Cities, I kind of put all of my, a lot of my ideas and obsessions into two characters, right? They kind of had two sides of that, and maybe I've just developed more obsessions since then. It's probably true, but I didn't feel like that could be all compacted into just even 4 characters. So that's where you've got, the other 2 on top of the, what you might call the 2 main ones. So it was really just, you get, I'm always starting with the ideas I want to get across and then how to do it. So again, that's back to reverse engineering. This is what I want to end up with the ideas I want to get across. How do I get there? Then that's informs the structure stuff we talked about.
Dialogue is essential in your storytelling. You're working with familiar faces, as you've already alluded to, and I'm curious in that respect. You're bringing in new people and then having familiar people. Did you write with their voices in your head in mind? Did you have an idea of which characters they were going to play, and does that help you? In your casting process, because you know how they're going to play it, them, they're familiar to you, to play off of.
No, I didn't go in. I knew I'd probably work with Clarence and Bethany again since they'd been my previous 2 features. But honestly, I did not go in writing characters for them.
Okay.
It became apparent to me as I was writing Paul that Clarence could really kill that character. We really do well in that character, which he did. And then when I got done, with the first drafts, it felt like Bethany would be good for Jody.
Uh-huh.
So I first I wrote it, but then I'm like, I knew I wanted to work with those guys again. Plus, since there is that sort of gossamer tie to Twin Cities, I didn't want them in that to show that that's what's going on. So I had to have them there anyway. But I didn't write to them directly. I just felt like those were the 2 characters for them after I wrote the other 6. Beyond that, it was just a casting call for the other 4. We did a lot of auditions, and I'm quite happy with the folks we got. I mean, we were lucky to get a lot of great local actors, a lot of big theater actors here to join us. So, but I didn't write anything with anyone in mind specifically.
Interesting. So what did the actors bring to this that you didn't expect them to?
Yeah, well, I knew, working with the same actors like Bethany and Clarence, you do get a sense of what they're good at. And so that's where, getting back to when I knew Clarence was going to be great for Paul, Clarence is phenomenal at taking all of my metaphysical, arcane, blocks of dialogue and making it still interesting and lively, right?
Right.
You saw like these coffee shop scenes where I'm like, Clarence is the only actor I know that could pull this off, right? So that's what he brought to that. Bethany plays a very conflicted, pissed off woman. So that was an easy slot in there. I had not worked with the other ones at all. So Katie Willard plays Kayla. I had seen her in our exec producer Matt Anderson's awesome web series Theater People, and I just had a really great vibe for who she is and like she could bring that character. So even like going in auditions, I'm like, I knew she was going to get it. So we did it anyway, but I felt she had a great. So she brought to that, specifically, she plays this character who's a barista in a coffee shop, and I remember showing these scenes to initial drafts to another person that worked on my last film, and he's like, "Well, this could easily be the manic pixie dream girl, right? Thing from a coffee shop you don't talk about, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like this kind of the classic is what's her name in Garden State? You have this really bubbly, cute, beautiful
Natalie Portman.
And I'm like, I need an actress who's not going to go there, who's going to bring us something much more deep and grounded and real life and gritty. And so that's what, to your question, that's what she brought to that one. So no one's watched those scenes now, and that's not come up again as far as, oh, you did this little pixie dream girl coffee shop girl who's cute and just reflects off of the dude. So she was amazing at breaking through that, and then she kind of developed this whole character of her own, even though a lot of the focus is on Clarence's character. Matt was really surprised. I knew Matt was going to be pretty good, but he really was crazy good as Alex. I'd never worked with him before. And what he brought was just this ability to hit all of those notes in the same story. The actress that plays Emily/Chelsea, Christine Weber, and Juan Rivera LeBron is the one that plays Michael and John, both characters. They're married and they've just got this amazing chemistry that you can't really easily manufacture on screen. So they brought, obviously being married and spending a lot of time together already, they were so easy to work with because it was just like saying action. They were just on their own, creating the natural chemistry they already have. So
having done 3 features now and several shorts, and you're like you said, this production was a little bit smoother for you because of that aspect of it. Was also the script writing a little bit smoother? Were you able to figure out how to make it move a little bit more, even with just blocks of dialogue? Was that something that came naturally to you, or did it surprise you in any aspect when you were creating it in your, onto the paper?
I would say, you definitely filmmaking you learn by doing, directing, editing, you don't just learn by doing, but more than anything, screenwriting, you learn by doing it and then having to direct your own stuff. Yeah. Because I know from all that other experience that what's not going to work when you actually try to go film it. So, a couple features ago, 2021, one before Twin Cities, I was still writing 12 pages of dialogue for one scene, and then having to go edit that crap was just like a nightmare. So I think it all worked out. We did a lot of cutting, but both Twin Cities and that film, we cut, I'd say about close to a third of what we shot. The scenes were just gone because I did not get ruthless enough in my editing while I was writing that we had to go shoot it, spend all that money and time in doing it, and then ultimately cut it. So I learned a lot, especially from those 2 films, not to do that. So in writing this one, I started a much better sense by now of what's going to work on film versus on the page. And also, given that I do tend to write a fair amount of dialogue, that I didn't want any scene longer than 5 pages. And I kind of held myself to that. So we ended up cutting almost nothing. I think like 2 minutes of this whole thing we cut, which is a huge improvement for me.
So what's next for you? What are you up to? Are you making another movie, or?
What I've been working on since we finished this film a little more than a year ago, it was totally done. And, I took a day off and I started writing a TV series. It's actually based on this film.
Oh, cool.
Believe it or not, but it's not, I'm almost done with the pilot, and I've got a lot of it organized and outlined, but it doesn't like pick up where Twin Cities leaves off. It's actually, the story of the series is actually, it follows a group of people who are making the film Twin Cities, or ever-changing versions of it. And it follows the lives of these people that are making this film, but also shows some of the scenes from the film being shot, which are different variations on the actual film. And what happens over time is, actually pretty quickly, is you start to see that the lives of the people making the film are reflected in the film itself. For example, the lead actors are falling in love while making the film, but then it starts to very quickly, we blur the line between what's actually in the film and what's not, to a point where you're not usually sure until it's revealed later in that scene or later in the film or in the series or the episode it's in, that was actually a scene that was from the film itself, or the people making the film having their own lives, which they're kind of cathartically projecting into the film itself. So it's kind of meditation on and identity, and just the way we kind of try to create our own storyline out of what we're given in life. And for me, it's a really exciting thing to write about, because it's really challenging me to look at things in a different way, the same way that Twin Cities film did itself. So yeah, it gets pretty meta. It's a meta narrative, and you get down a rabbit hole pretty quickly.